My name is Ryan McCutcheon, and my book is The Adventures of the Flying Furniture series, What If Furniture Could Fly?
Book lovers unite. I'm Demethius Jackson, and you're listening to the Chapter 1 podcast. The greatest stories ever written all begin with Chapter 1. In each episode, our guest authors will share their first chapters with you. On today's episode, I'll be speaking with Ryan McCutcheon, who's possibly one of the most creative authors I've had on the show so far. He's both an author and an artiste. He'll be reading from his self-illustrated children's book entitled, What If Furniture Could Fly? This is a story based on the power of imagination, where an inspiring young pilot and his canine companion chase a fantastic flotilla of flying furniture and colorful hot air balloons against the backdrop of 19th century Paris. Oh, Paris. Je comprends le français très bien. Okay. Un peu seulement. Just enough to ask directions, order food, and find a bathroom. What If Furniture Could Fly is a multifaceted adventure by Ryan, and it starts right now. Okay, I'm sitting here with perhaps one of the most creative authors I've had on the show so far, Ryan McCutcheon. How's it going?
Good, man.
Glad to have you on.
Well, same here. I'm glad that you could do this.
So in addition to being a book author, you're an actual artiste, like as in a painter. So how did you fall into painting?
I've been painting for a while, but not just painting. I've done lots of different artistic things like graphic design. You know, when I was younger, I knew I wanted to be an artist. I just didn't know how. And graphic design seemed a pretty decent way to go and actually get paid for it. So I learned vector graphics and Photoshop, Illustrator, all that good stuff as well. But painting itself, I just did for fun. And then one day, I actually got hired to do it for classes. And I enjoyed the classes. It made me paint a little bit more. But my really passion is public art. I like things really large. And I like when I get the wow factor of, hey, how'd you do that? You know, it's 45 feet tall or 300 feet wide. How did you do that? I like that.
Oh, okay. So you mean like some of the artwork from like within Deep Ellum or like on the sides of buildings?
Similar, yeah, absolutely. Some murals or some sculptures, like if you've seen the robot sculpture in Deep Ellum.
Yeah.
You know, I think that one of the creators with that was Brandon Oldenburg and Brad. I can't remember his last name. That was a very cool piece of public art that's massive, and everybody takes pictures of it and says, "Wow, that's awesome."
Absolutely, they sometimes dress those statues up in like Mavericks uniforms. You know, when there's like special events.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, or you know, the little sculpture you see that's on the side of the road at the corner, or whatever when you're downtown, or the mural that you see in Deep Ellum.
So art was something that I guess you just naturally developed.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that too. I grew up creative for sure. My dad's an engineer, my mom's a teacher. Well, I see it now. I didn't see it when I was younger. A lot of people still, I guess, look at me as the artist engineer. Because I do make things that involves electricity, or I make things that involve moving parts and things like that as well. But I didn't see it. I just thought it was some rebellious thing that I liked to create when I was younger. And then my family at first was kind of, well, you need to go out and get a real job, and which a lot of people I know now that have had that same deal. And my parents are very cool with what I do now, especially since they've seen some of my paychecks and said, oh, he actually is making a living and he's doing okay. As soon as I got over that, I was much better. You know, your family a lot of times are supportive of you, and you're kind of like, oh, thank you. But you don't know sometimes if that's real or not.
Yeah.
So one of the things that gave me that validation was I did a signing with a group of people at my home library, and there was 7 or 8 artists there, but I actually drew the most people that came to the event, you know, and I was thinking, wow, you know, that's awesome. I was hoping that more people would be there, but I just brought it in, and these people I haven't seen in a while, or, you know, I see them on like social media or something, but I didn't necessarily see them all the time in person. And when they came in and bought a book and bought some of the artwork, that was my validation. It's like, okay, I've got something here. This gives me also viability to keep creating it, even though I guess some of the writers like myself procrastinate or have other things to do. And just trying to keep it up and keep it going.
Yeah. How did art lead into writing for you?
A couple of different things. So I have a background in marketing for one, okay? And I don't want to be fake about anything it is that I do. So I was thinking, you know what? Maybe if I experimented with a book, it might help try to sell some of my prints as well. The other aspect of it is I used to like to write a lot. Like, English was one of my more favorite subjects. And I just decided maybe it'd be cool to have something published. What would it take to do that? And now I've found like a whole world of indie artists, which now I am. I didn't really know that was a thing until then. And I just said, why not? So it was a lot of different things. It was me just getting my feet wet, trying to help promote some of my artwork as well. Coming up with a cool idea that no one else has come up with that's fairly simple, which is who's ever seen flying furniture? Bed knobs and broomsticks. I mean, all of that stuff. But now it's attached to a balloon, a hot air balloon. And I just thought it was kind of fun.
Yeah, that's actually incredible. So with your artistic ability and your writing ability, it made sense to produce an illustrated children's book.
It did. I got to find multiple avenues for income. Plus, I do so many different things. I've got to keep that going. Like, I don't know. I don't have like ADHD or anything, but I do have I've got to stay busy most of the time. And I know in my mentality, like back of my mind, I'm a worker. Like I don't necessarily want to mow the lawn every day, but I do like to stay busy. Yeah. And this busyness, I like to go towards a goal. And my ultimate goal is to be satisfied in what it is that I do. Everyone's goal necessarily is to be happy, that as well, but be able to pay the bills and not necessarily always live paycheck to paycheck. When I was writing the book, I rarely got any sleep because I was so excited about it. And I think I finished writing it and illustrating the first one in 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Okay. But I was so excited about it, and I researched everything. I, went through publishers. I talked to a lot of people and all of that.
Yeah, it's that motivation. Are you going for a specific age group with your series?
This particular book right here is for young readers for sure, like first-time readers. I was also inspired by the Bernstein Bear books, hence the size of the book itself. I was a huge fan of them and the simplicity of how it's written and things like that. So yeah, just the young first-time readers. Now, I'm also working on my wife and I, she likes the idea as well, so she took it to another level, and we've been working on that book for about a year and a half, and it's a 200-page young reader's book based off the flying furniture as well.
Oh, wow.
And it was also cool, the fact that it was mostly written where it takes place in London. So we spent 13 months there, or she spent 13 months there last year, and I was there back and forth, and we would go to these places, and we would walk around, and we would brainstorm, we would record ourselves, we would write it down. So I'm excited about that one, but I think that one's going to be a long time to actually get it published.
There are a lot of talented individuals out there, including you. So why not share your talent with the world? Well, you can with Sunfire Talent. Sunfire Talent is an internet-based talent agency focused on generating mass exposure for everyday people with amazing skills. The company's mission is to help talented people with limited resources showcase their abilities and be discovered on a global stage. Check out featured artists and be featured yourself if you have the skills on sunfiretalent.com. That's sunfiretalent.com. To all my book lovers out there, do yourself a favor and check out Half Price Books. With more than 120 stores across the country, Half Price Books is America's largest family-owned bookstore. At any of their locations, you can buy and sell new and used books, music, movies, games, electronic devices, even collectibles. And Half Price Books has been dedicated to literacy and environmental initiatives since 1972. They give back to the community by supporting hundreds of worthy projects, including this one, and have been the leading drive behind programs like the Million Books Donation Project and the Half Pint Library Book Drive. Find a Half Price Books location near you by checking out their website at www.hpb.com. So how did you come up with the concept of flying furniture? Because that's pretty unique.
One of the things was I was brainstorming to come up with something that was completely unique. Like, what's an artist's job? Try to do something that no one's ever seen before. How difficult is that? Extremely difficult. So therefore, but the difference between creating something new and creating or taking something old is very little, like very small. I wish you could see my hands right now, but you can't. Anyways, it's just very small. So my wife really likes to paint furniture, and I like things that fly. So I just kind of pushed them together and said, all right, let's see what happens when you have flying furniture. And so I started drawing little hot air balloons with, chairs and different types of, I would say more like British furniture, but I do have furniture from all over the world, not just American furniture or anything like that. And there's actually some detail that's behind the research I've done to actually draw the furniture and the balloons and things like that as well.
Yeah, and the illustrations are amazing. It's actually interesting that you're using hot air balloons. It kind of reminds me of that 19th century steampunk kind of era.
It does have some of that, the steampunk-ish, or the 19th century Gothic, or I guess diesel punk as well is another one. Yeah, absolutely. I like that style. I want it to be... I don't want it to be a certain style, just like steampunk, but there is some of that 19th century stuff in there, and that was real. And the cool thing about that is that's when these balloons were first created. And it talks a little bit about that in the book. Not a whole lot. It's a small book. It's a children's book. But doing the research of those flying machines, what they call, or dirigibles, I believe was the name of the actual machines themselves. They were like hot air balloons. They were balloons first, and then hot air balloons, and then they became like blimps, and then so on and so forth. But trying to see people create things that fly, this was that era.
Being an artist, you're big in exploring one's imagination. And these kids growing up nowadays, they're living in a technological world way different from how you and I grew up. Do you feel that technology and social media is stifling their creativity or enhancing it? Or both?
I think that some of the kids are missing out on some things. Like a good example is photography, for example. I have a passion about photography as well. I learned how to develop film. I learned how to use enlargers, like a darkroom and all of these things, when I was in school. This is what they taught me. And then I transitioned into Photoshop. That was fairly simple for me because of the fact I understood where the software was originated from. I didn't come into Photoshop being green and cold and not understanding what my capabilities were. Now, granted, it made my capabilities a lot easier because instead of using like actual scissors and tape to make a collage, I could just take all the pictures into Photoshop and cut them out, right on the screen itself, and only print one picture opposed to developing film and having 24 images, hoping they all come out, and then using the solution and then using the enlarger. So all these processes made that part easier.
The f-stop solution, dodging.
Yeah, like all of that, So that's one thing that I think that some of the like newer generation might miss out on. But the other thing is they don't also have to worry about that. So they can think further ahead of, okay, now the software is available. Where is the imagination at that point? I mean, just look at the new game that's so popular right now, the Pokemon Go. That was crazy imaginative, and I understand where it comes from. I understand the previous game that made that happen, which a lot of people don't. That was a geeks and nerds kind of game, whereas Pokemon went mainstream, and now I think it's great that it's mainstream, but I don't know. I think it's both. I think that it could hinder you in some aspects of not knowing where things came from and the history of how it got there. But now you have, you don't have to think about some of that stuff in the process that it took to get to that point. You can just go forward. And, I think the hardest thing is just, again, like I said earlier, coming up with something new.
Oh, dude, can you imagine what Pokemon Go is going to do for books?
Absolutely.
Being able to import your own characters into a similar environment like Pokemon Go. It's crazy.
So, okay, here's one of something I know, I guess. Anyone ever heard of Moonbot Studios, which is from my hometown, Shreveport? They created a interactive animated book that uses an app on their phone. You open up the book, you put the app on there, and it comes to life. Okay?
Wow.
Yes. It's the Flying Books of Mr. Lesmore, I believe is the name. I'm not 100% sure of that, but it's very cool. Moonbot Studios also created a movie you may have heard of called The Rise of the Guardians.
Mm-hmm.
Robots, and a few other movies. But these are some folks that I look up to, and I would like to maybe, I don't know if I want a studio as big as theirs, like doing all the movies and stuff, but I would definitely see, if someone came to me and wanted the Adventures of Flying Furniture movie, I wouldn't turn it down.
Yeah.
But
That's pretty incredible. So I guess technology just opens up a world of possibilities.
I think so.
Based on your own creativity. So you have plans of turning this book into an actual series, as well as some other things like games and workshops even?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing, the series is already happening. Like I have a second book written already. Unfortunately, hard drive cached, and we have these technical problems.
Yes.
And I hadn't just finished. I already had it illustrated. It's all written. And then I just had to start all over and hadn't done it. Well, the third book is already in progress as too, which is the longer young reader novel that my wife and I are working on. Here's one thing that's cool. So part of the game's already in the book. One of the things that I always got in trouble for was drawing in my book. I made it available in my book. So there are some simple games in the back of the book that you can actually draw in, and some blank pages that you can draw in, and it's okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I don't know. I guess teachers or anything like that, there's some activities. Like I maybe would like to put a science project or science syllabus or something behind it where you can do things of flight, or you can, I don't know, just there's so many things that I'd like to do. And
well, I saw within the book already that, there are activities like you can look for particular words that rhyme, or you can look for like scientific facts, I think.
Yes. Yeah. There are a few facts in the book as well, which I try to put into the other books also. Like how big is Big Ben, or how long does it take to get from here to there, or, where is this particular place on the map? So, and I think these are spawned from books I used to read called the Choose Your Own Adventure books, which were some of my favorite books. Yeah. But, you don't, I guess now I haven't really looked, but I bet there's different versions of that. But when I read the series, and it's kind of like, oh, well, I guess there's no more. I've read them all.
It would be nice if we could bring those back. I guess it's up to us to bring those back.
Exactly. And I think there are some people that have, but not necessarily in the same way.
Yeah.
So, I would like to add some of those activities in my series as well. So just an example of how the book To Fly or Not to Fly is going. The first page basically says, Union Jack started it all, a flyer from London that was oh so small. In 1901, the first in flight, rounding the skies, what a rare sight. So it shows a little bit of how I rhyme in the book, but it also gives you the date of the actual first hot air balloon known to date.
Oh, wow. Incredible.
So
awesome. Educational and entertaining.
Yeah, I try a little bit.
Okay. Where can readers find you online?
So I'm on Amazon. I have my own website. The website is theadventuresoftheflyingfurniture.com. And the Amazon, just look up the book, The Adventures of the Flying Furniture. What if furniture could fly? Keep it simple.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for coming on the show today. I appreciate you sitting down and talking with me.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And with that, we'll wrap up another episode. That was a pretty awesome interview. Thanks for Ryan for taking the time to meet up with me today. So lately, I've been expanding my social media presence because I have to get better at that. So check out the Chapter 1 podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I will regularly be posting content about writing, reading, and everything in between. If you have any questions or comments about the show, or know an author who's looking to get a little extra exposure, hit me up at info@ch1podcast.com. That's info@ch1podcast.com. Till next time.